All right, welcome back. You know, what I like about my next guest is he literally sees through the fog of war, right? He doesn't let it change his thesis at all. Yeah, he'll take advantage of the opportunities it throws off, but he doesn't get flustered on a headline-to-headline basis or moment, right? These are literally his own words. He says, this market will be gone like a rocket if there is a peace deal, which is why the smartest move you can make right now is to prepare for that. And that is something that I think is really interesting. He says, investing in optimism beats cowering in pessimism any day and every day. And you can't really argue with that. I totally agree. Here's three stocks that he likes, and I like them too. He's got Tesla picked out, Alphabet, and CrowdStrike. So let's get him on to see what's driving his thought process on those, and we'll talk about some more stuff too. Please welcome to the show the original Sultan of Seattle, Mr. Keith Fitz-Gerald. Thanks for coming on, Keith. I love what you have to say there. Tesla's an interesting one. I'll start with that one. Full disclosure, I'm long it, and the reason why I'm starting with it is because I'm taking a bath on it today because it's lower. But what are your thoughts on Tesla? Make me happy.
Well, I'm right there with you. I'm taking a bath on it too. But, this is a prime example of why you don't let fear dominate the investing process. Because if you worried about it, A, you wouldn't be very good at your job. And B, statistics show very, very clearly that the worst days in the markets are inevitably followed by the best. And we just published something for our clients, Scott, 81 years of research that shows the average return only months later in events like this, whenever the VIX rises above 30, 31, is, we're talking 16, 17, 18%. And so, can you really afford to miss that? No. Do you feel smart going to the sidelines? Yeah, right up until the train leaves the station without you again. So Tesla, super controversial, beaten down hard, robotics, AI, data, batteries, energy, a dozen different businesses, 3 or 4 of which are probably trillion-dollar opportunities all by themselves.
Right. And so, and tell me what your thoughts are on this, because there's no definitive out there. But do you believe, like some folks do someday, maybe not too far away, that they'll have Tesla shareholders somehow folded in with the SpaceX IPO?
Yeah, I floated that idea probably 5 years ago, and people thought I was absolutely stark raving mad when I said it. But I increasingly believe that it's going to happen. I think it's very logical that Mr. Musk combines not only SpaceX and Tesla, but also XAI. There's a number of things that he's going to be working on to create what I think is the super app. And I think that that's going to be valuable in ways that we can't comprehend yet.
All right, that's great. I mean, okay, so I'm going to hang on then. But 2 of them I don't have that you mentioned, though, Alphabet, which is Google, Alphabet, and CrowdStrike, I think it was. What are your thoughts on those 2?
Well, CrowdStrike is a no-brainer to me. People talk about cybersecurity like it's just identity theft or something, but it's far bigger than that. And CrowdStrike is unique because its architecture from the ground up is to protect this at the most critical point in history. If you think bad agents like, for example, Iran or North Korea or Russia or other people around the planet aren't trying to break into our nuclear systems, into our water plants, into our stock exchanges, then, I think respectfully, whoever's thinking that is naive as heck. But that's where a company like this comes in. The business, the addressable market is accelerating. The company has got very high margin activities. You've got 48% of the customers continuing to move. They retain 97% of their customers after the big Delta kerfuffle. And so, this is not a company that's an optional investment, in my opinion. So CEOs are writing blank checks for cybersecurity because they have to. And then finally, if we look at the last one here, the Google/Alphabet, I'm an old dog. I can't learn a new trick. I'm still going to call it Google. But, the Broadcom investment changes everything. I don't like the way Google's going with its legal headwinds. I don't like Alphabet's legal challenges. I think it's in a world of hurt if the Digital Rights Act crumbles. But the Broadcom news this morning changes that thesis a little bit. So I'm looking at it. I don't yet own it. I'm looking at it and thinking, maybe I ought to rethink that premise.
So we're all going to be sitting here now waiting for an event. And I think that's the hardest thing to do as a trader. And you make great points that you don't really want to be a trader. You don't want to buy stuff and hold it and watch this thing do, work for you. But there's going to be a lot of people out there waiting to see what happens with the president in Iran today, because he said some pretty big things about what he'll do to that country if we don't get that Strait open. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. Until the Straits of Hormuz are open, we're all trading oil, and that's going to drag us all around here until that finally. So when the oil is flowing freely, then stocks will trade freely. Up until then, we're kind of handcuffed here, but we're all going to wait for this event. And event-driven trade outcomes are hard because they're so binary. It's either up or down, black or white, left or right. Kind of maybe expand on that if you can. It makes it difficult as an investor.
Well, it does, but it also raises one of the most fundamental points of all. People spend a lot of mental energy worrying about being right. But the world's most successful investors focus on being profitable, even if they're wrong. And I submit that's the situation, if you're a serious investor, that you want to think about today. And I'm feeling the angst too. I mean, our children are all military. I get it. I understand it. I feel it probably more than most people who don't have military families. But if you look at this as an investor and you say, all right, where does the world go from here? Well, eventually this stuff is going to calm down. Cooler heads will prevail. We don't know what it looks like tonight. We don't know what it looks like tomorrow. Hopefully we get cooler heads before something really, really nasty happens. But as an investor, again, we can't afford to make those choices. What we want to focus on is, do we own the right companies now for when this does stop? Because then it's the rocket ride.
Yes. Right, because it's exactly right. And that's how I put it a little bit differently than you do, but it's exactly the same outcome, is that I want to look at my portfolio today and have it positioned for tomorrow, right? Yep. I want to have my portfolio positioned for when this ends, because you know what, Keith? It's going to end. We're going to get back to normal at some point in time. So I'm starting to try to position my portfolio for that date. Am I going to buy the low in Tesla, or am I going to buy the low in Microsoft? No. But you need to start feathering in those purchases so that you have something on board when it finally does leave the station, like you say.
Bingo. You can't hope to be up if you're not investing when the chips are down.
I'm going to end on that. That's perfect. I love it. That's awesome. Awesome to have you on. We get such great mail about you as well, Keith. We really appreciate you adding your comments to the show. Great.